In a stunning move, Politico has just reported that the Supreme Court has voted to strike down Roe, the decision legalizing abortion in the United States of America. The news came from an initial draft majority opinion written by Justice Samuel Alito, circulated inside the court, and then obtained by Politico. In the decision by Alito, which is labeled as the opinion of the court, meaning the majority opinion, he wrote, quote, "Roe was egregiously wrong from the start. We hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled. It is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives." Now, I should note that because this decision was leaked and not yet published, it is still possible that justices could change their votes, but I wouldn't count on it, because this has been the goal of Republicans from the outset. The draft decision is labeled as the first draft, and that lists Justices Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, Amy Coney Barrett, and Brett Kavanaugh as joining in Alito's opinion. And just one thing about Kavanaugh, I'd like to issue a special fuck you to Susan Collins today, because let's not forget that this is what the purportedly pro-choice Susan Collins said when asked about this very thing happening.
I do not believe that Brett Kavanaugh will overturn
His precedents are overturned.
He noted that Roe had been reaffirmed 19 years later by Planned Parenthood versus Casey, and that it was precedent on precedent. He said it should be extremely rare that it be overturned, and it should be an example.
So you have obviously full confidence.
I do. We talked about whether he considered Roe to be settled law. He said that he agreed with what Justice Roberts said at his nomination hearing, in which he said that it was settled law. I could not vote for a judge who had demonstrated hostility to Roe v. Wade because it would indicate a lack of respect for precedent. What Judge Kavanaugh told me, and he's the first Supreme Court nominee that I've interviewed out of 6 who has told me this, is that he views precedent not just as a legal doctrine, but as rooted in our Constitution. And he reveres our Constitution. I asked him, is it sufficient if 5 current sitting justices believe that Roe should be overturned? And he said no. I would not support a nominee who demonstrated hostility to Roe v. Wade, because that would mean to me that their judicial philosophy did not include a respect for established decision. Judge Kavanaugh is the first Supreme Court nominee to express the view that precedent is not merely a practice and tradition, but rooted in Article 3 of our Constitution itself. I will vote to confirm Judge Kavanaugh.
I guess the only person who didn't realize what a fool Susan Collins was Susan Collins. And know this, Republicans won't stop at abortion. They've already signaled their opposition to same-sex marriage, even to interracial marriage. And they'll couch it in this bullshit code about states' rights, as if Republicans care about states' rights. As if any of them cared when they all joined a Texas lawsuit during the 2020 election seeking to overturn the election results in Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, and Wisconsin. I guess states' rights weren't such a big deal back then, but now, when it means they can eliminate rights that women have enjoyed for half a century, suddenly they're states' rights purists again. Got it. And while you'll certainly hear Republicans applaud this news, bear in mind that, per usual, they don't represent the views of the vast majority of this country. There is broad public opposition to overturning Roe. 70% of Americans do not believe that this decision should be reversed, while only 28%, barely a quarter of this country, believe that it should. So if you hear any punditry on this that suggests that one side thinks this is good and the other side thinks this is bad, and that both sides deserve equal weight, remember that they don't. Because one side represents a dwindling faction of far-right theocrats and religious extremists who believe that the separation of church and state doesn't exist and that the US government is their house of worship. It's not. But these people aren't interested in the views of the American people, they are interested in forcing their own views and religious beliefs onto everyone else. And look, I know that if you're watching this, you're probably feeling enraged and helpless all at once. But there are 2 things that we can do. The first is to find 5 people who didn't vote in the last election, 5 people who care about a woman's bodily bodily autonomy, a woman's economic freedom, a woman's reproductive health, and make sure they vote in November. That's all. Do you know any 18-year-olds or 19-year-olds who are now eligible to vote? Any apolitical relatives, any politically apathetic friends, or even a Republican who thinks that a woman's bodily autonomy eclipses everything else? Find those people and make them your priority and your responsibility heading into this next election. If everyone made themselves responsible for bringing just a few people who didn't show up last time to the polls, think about how the electorate not only expands, but explodes. That is the kind of turnout we need. Because the simple truth is that unless Republicans suffer a massive repudiation at the ballot box, a repudiation unlike they've seen before, Republicans will view any win as a validation of what they're doing. Meaning this won't be a one-off, it'll be a blueprint. And same-sex marriage, interracial marriage, and so much more will immediately be on the chopping block. And the other solution is to help fund voter registration groups. I started the Don't Be a Mitch Fund, which specifically funds efforts to register new voters. So if you're feeling helpless, just know that there are people working right now to find new voters and get them set up to vote in November. Your donation helps those people who are out there knocking on doors and doing the work. We're approaching $900,000 raised for these groups, so please click the link on the screen or check out the post description or go to don'tbeamitch.com and give what you can. Every bit makes a difference. The fact is that this should be a wake-up call about the dangers of allowing Republicans to ever take power again. We need to expand the Senate majority to finally eliminate the filibuster, and then we can pass legislation codifying Roe and even expanding the court, considering a 6-3 court likely wouldn't even allow that kind of legislation to stand. And I know Republicans will clutch their pearls and wail about how the radical Democrats are destroying the sanctity of the court. Give me a break. Republicans are poised to destroy 50 years of precedent as they careen off the far-right cliff in their desperation to turn The Handmaid's Tale into a documentary. If you're looking for the extremists here, I can assure you with every fiber of my being that it is not the Democrats. And the quicker we can show some spine and learn to actually fight back against these egregiously anti-democratic tactics that we are constantly contending with these days, the sooner we can actually protect this country and the people in it, and govern in a way that Americans actually support. But to do that, we need to start fighting back, and that is on every single one of us starting today. To see more videos like this, click the subscribe button right here on this screen. And if you want to support my work, subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. I cover the most important stories each week, and my guest is always one of the top political figures, including Vice President Kamala Harris, Jen Psaki, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Nancy Pelosi, Katie Porter, Cory Booker, and so many more. The podcast link is also right here on this screen, so give it a listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.